with myself, even though I keep it real and I am authentic online, I also try and make it fun as well. Like I try and keep up with the latest trends, you know, like the trending sounds like people use for reels and stuff like that. I try and keep up with that, but then obviously make it relevant to what I'm trying to show people, tell people. I think that's really important as well, because if something's trending, it's going to be seen by, you know, people.
Right.
I think that's really, really important to make sure that you are keeping up with trends, but then making it relevant to what you're trying to achieve. I think that's really important to do. And even doing that, I've made quite a few connections. People like, I mean, when reels blow up, you know, you get like loads and loads of views and stuff. Some of it's nothing, it's fine, but you never know. Out of all those thousands of people, there's going to be somebody who's watching your stuff thinking, oh my God, that's me. Like, you know, I go through that, or I'm feeling that. And I think that's really important to do as well, because right now everything, you know, it's as silly as it sounds, it's all to do with trends. If someone's doing it, you want to do it too. So you need to keep up with that, I think. And it definitely does help. I mean, with myself, I recently started selling like bracelets on my website. I do like rare disease bracelets. It's nothing to do with my condition specifically. It's just like rare disease, invisible illnesses, and hidden disabilities. But when somebody buys that or looks at it, or they're wearing it, and somebody asks them what it is, they immediately start talking about what I do online. And then it's like, oh, okay, you know, that way I'm, again, like spreading the message through bracelets. You know, that wasn't my intention. I just thought it was something fun to do, and I started doing it. And then, you know, a lot of people have been messaging me saying that, you know, I really love like what your bracelets mean. And I was like, I mean, that wasn't what I was trying to do, but wow, okay. You know, and that is the power of social media. You know, especially Instagram. Like I said, everybody's on it, and whatever you use it for, keeping up with trends and doing things that other people are doing, but then making it relevant to what you're trying to achieve, you are going to draw in a lot of people. And I found that, I mean, I've only been active for 3 years on Instagram. Well, before that, but talking about my condition for 3 years. And the amount I've achieved in those 3 years just through Instagram, it's amazing. And it's just to, you know, it's just telling people, like literally just shouting, like, this is what I've got, and this is, you're not alone, you know, you're also suffering from this, like, and it just helps others, and it helps you as well, right?
And it can kind of be an outlet too, because some of them are really silly, so then it kind of can help you to, you know, laugh to keep from crying type deal. So, you know, I've had one recently that was kind of funny, but it was like using one of those, you know, the sounds that was trending at the time, but I just basically, you know, it was just gibberish from a rap song, and I was like, yeah, me on the phone, like talking to my genetic counselor, and there were so many people like, oh my God, why do they talk to us like we studied genomes all of our lives? So it was funny, but you know, there were so many people that was like, this is funny because it's true, like this is funny because I deal with this too. I'm just like, why did you waste 45 minutes of my time and I still don't know what we're talking about here? So and another thing that we were laughing because, you know, I said all of that just to still not have a diagnosis. So at the bottom of the bottom, like she said, we're raising awareness, but it was just a way to kind of make it, you know, lighthearted and fun. And I needed that laugh that day anyway.
I think that's also important, because one thing when I started sort of talking about my condition and raising awareness online, one thing I didn't want to do was to moan about what I'm going through. That's the last thing I want to do. Like, I don't want to moan about it. I don't want people to feel sorry for me. Like, I don't want them to look at me thinking, oh, you know, she's got this rare disease and she's sick all the time. I don't want that. And that's the reason I try to make it as fun as possible, but still relevant, and you're still learning things. You still know the reality. Like you just said, it's funny, but it's relevant, and they still get to know the reality of living with a rare disease or being a caregiver. And I think that's definitely important. You know, you don't want to be sending out the wrong messages either. And the saying that actually my husband did initially say, like, I don't want you to do this. You know, you don't need to be so open about it. It's cool, you've got this condition, it's fine. Like, you know, There are other ways that you can just go onto forums or join these communities. You don't need to like shout about it. That was his initial reaction. And I just said to him, like, look, this is what I've lived with my entire life, you know, don't talk about it. And then when he kind of understood what I was trying to achieve, the fact that I just want to help people, and I know that they're going to help me as well, you know, and he started becoming a little bit more open, and he's now more supportive than ever. And this is a kind of message that I want to send to people who are still reluctant to kind of be open about it because they don't know what's the reaction that they're going to get. You know, this is my Instagram is me telling people, like, do it. You know, people want you to do it. People like me, like when I first started, I was looking for patients, like rare disease patients. That, you know, I went on to that for that reason. So that's really important. Even as a caregiver,
Absolutely.
it's important.
Absolutely. It really helps that you find your people, you find your community, you find support, you find people who get it, you find organizations to support research, to help the community. It can really be a beautiful, beautiful tool when you're on a rare disease journey, whether you're the patient, whether you're the caregiver, whether you're the sibling. My 8-year-old is very open about it. She's written a book about it. She's going to be a tiny little screamer advocate herself because she's only 8 years old and she doesn't think our downtown area is accessible enough. But I think that no matter what role you play, it's important that you show. I'm so proud of my daughter because I can't relate to her fully as a sibling. So it's important for her to be loud and to speak up and to speak out about that because there's other siblings out there too. There's other caregivers that need each other. There's patients that need each other. There's caregivers that need the patients. And, you know, all of us, you just really build your community. And it can be scary when you're first opening up about it. It can be downright terrifying because you don't know how people are going to perceive it. You don't know if your message is going to be, you know, taken how you were meant for it to be taken, like with the whole pity thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't want people to feel sorry for us. I just want you to understand and, you know, just hopefully wake up knowing that people are dealing with things, whether you can visibly see it or not. So always be kind. Like just be a kind person because you really never know. One of the things that I know she hears, and I hear it all the time, is that, well, you don't look like, you know, X, Y, and Z, but you carry it so well. You know, that's not what you want, and it's not what you need. And with sharing your story, you find those people who understand.
Yeah.
And you can have these conversations. Yes, they're your people, and that's it.
Yeah. Even like how you said, like how it's terrifying when you start sharing things. You don't know how much to share as well. Like, you know, I've seen Instagram accounts where somebody's sharing everything, like everything, blood tests, everything.
Yeah.
You know, to the T.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a bit much. But you don't know, it's obviously personal preference, like what you want to share. It's cool, some people want to share literally everything. But that's your space to do it. That's you're telling the story. So whatever you want to share, you share it. There's no such thing as too much sharing or too little sharing. It's what you feel comfortable with. I'm not comfortable with sharing pictures or videos of myself in hospital. I talk about it all the time. But I'm not comfortable doing that, even though I took quite a few sort of like videos and pictures when I was pregnant because I was going through treatment. I had like a central line in and they were kind of like washing my blood. It's a little bit like dialysis. They were taking all the fat out of my blood and replacing it with like fresh plasma. That's something that not many people see. So for me, it was like, you know, I might use this. So I started taking like videos, got my husband to take pictures, and I did end up using a few of it because when I started being open on Instagram, I don't know if you've heard of Rare Revolution magazine. They found me on Instagram and they were like, we'd really love to do like an article on you because it was FCS Awareness Day coming up, and they were like, we'd really love to have you, share your story. But that, for me, that was an opportunity. For them, it was an opportunity. So I ended up doing that and shared these pictures, which I probably would never have shared if I hadn't decided to raise awareness and share my story. So that was there's no such thing as oversharing or undersharing. You share what you feel comfortable with. Anything and everything will be appreciated. Even when I see stuff that I wouldn't necessarily share, it helps me because I know that's my reality too. Like, it really does. Everything helps. I mean, you must get that as well. Like, whatever you see on Instagram, all the different stories with like different patients or it's all helpful, isn't it?
It's all helpful. It's all information. It's all going to be something that somebody likely didn't know or wasn't aware of, and that's how we change things. That's how we raise awareness. That's how we continue to do things. We just, talk about it. But like you said, it's your own preference. There's, there might be certain parts of, the journey that I still need to work on within myself and, have some healing in certain areas before, I'm comfortable and confident enough to speak out, about it. Because when I personally, because, I also very much see myself as an advocate, is when I am speaking out about certain situations, I want to be or feel as knowledgeable as I can. So when somebody does ask the question, I can share with them how they can be an ally. So it's just personal preference, but whichever parts, you're sharing, just let it be exactly, what it is. You never know where it might lead. You never know what type of information you might get. I got some extremely helpful information a few years ago from a genetic doctor in Italy, and I live in South Carolina. So if it wasn't for me sharing, a specific or particular story about what was going on with my daughter, where was I gonna run into him at, So he was, in Italy, but because he saw it using one of the rare disease hashtags that I used on it, because he is a doctor that specifically studies rare diseases, and that's how he stumbled upon it. And he decided to message me to say, hey, actually, and then was able to give me information. It was information that it helped me understand what my daughter was going through at the time so much better, and it made me a better mom and caregiver for her.
Yeah, that's exactly how I learned about the clinical trial, which I'm actually really glad. So I used the rare disease, I think it was Rare Disease Day, it was nearer to that time, and I used that hashtag, I used clinical trial, and that's exactly how I found this random person say to me that, oh, my brother's got this condition and this is what he's doing. And that's something for me to take away and talk to my specialist saying, well, is this, can I, is this for me, basically? And I wouldn't have known about that at all. Yeah. Because, it was a drug that wasn't even approved yet, and I'd love to kind of try something that's actually going to work. So I've had this condition all my life. I've been on the same medication for over 20 years, and it's not like something that's helping me a lot. Like, I'm still getting sick. I'm still being hospitalized hundreds of times with pancreatitis. So my medication is obviously not working. If there is another drug out there, I want to know about it. And because of that, I started using certain hashtags where other people might be able to find me, and they have. I've had another specialist, again, it was a lipid specialist who contacted me saying, oh, I just found you using the rare disease hashtag. It came off what I suggested, on my feed, and I was like, oh, that's really weird because we don't follow each other. So using relevant hashtags is really, really important. Whatever you're trying to find, even if you just use a hashtag to search for answers, you're going to find them. And I think that's really important, because a lot of people, I see post things but they don't use hashtags, or they just use like a couple. If you're allowed to use 30 on one post, use it to your advantage. Whatever it is you want to find out, whatever it is that's relevant to that post, use them all, because chances are somebody out there, who's able to help you, or you might be able to help them. They're going to find you, or you're going to find them.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all of it. It's just when you use everything, you use all of the hashtags and the trendy stuff and stuff like that to your advantage. It can lead to answers and other people, and I think that the stories, sometimes I think you should you utilize your stories as well. Just using the stories a lot. Sometimes
whatever function is available on Instagram, use it. I know a lot of people right now, they're going on, they're saying that reels are like the way forward, but a lot of people still feel like, oh, I don't really want to, I don't want videos of me. It doesn't have to be videos.
It doesn't.
It really doesn't. Like, I literally put up, like, me and my husband were going on a drive and the sky just looked really, really nice. I was just filming our little journey. It was like a 30-second clip, and then I just had like a trending sound going on in the background, and I wrote whatever was relevant. And so many people reacted to that. You don't have to show your face if you're not comfortable, but if it's trending and if it's what's working for other people, use it, because it's probably going to work for you. So whatever new feature Instagram, start sort of shouting about.
Yeah,
because they're doing it for a reason.
Yeah, if something is trendy, it's going to be more visible. So visibility is what you need when you're trying to share your story and get your story out there. Sometimes you just have to figure out like what's trending literally like that week or that day or whatever. If it's more eyes being put on the stories, like she said, with the reels, and you can really get creative with those. Some people would literally use a picture and just put a trending sound behind the picture sometimes. And well, I've done that because it was just the words describing someone asked me to be, asked me my open and honest opinion about how hard it is being a caregiver. And I just wrote out, a completely, I was like, well, if you want the whole truth, and spilled it all. And the same, I shared it because people can relate to it. Like, there was someone who messaged me, I want to say she is in the UK, and she said, I've been on a caregiver journey for 20 years, and she said, and I could have written every single word that you wrote. And that is the whole point of it, because I was like, from one aspect as a caregiver, I've been on my journey for almost 7 years. If she's been on it for 20, I can be on it for 22. So it also is motivating. It can also give you that extra push that you need when you're down, because, it's not always so glamorous. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. I think we're pretty much done. I think we've covered everything, we've touched on everything. If there's anything that you guys feel like we've missed, or any questions you might have, then please feel free.
I run the patient advocacy organization called CGD Association of America, and we do things on Instagram, and there are always so many apps that are available to improve reels, images. It gets a little overwhelming. I'm always getting pushed various apps to make videos better, editing better, music better. How do we choose which ones? Which ones do you use that you stand by that are like the gold standard for you guys, just to make it really easy? Because I find that a lot of these apps actually take more time, or I can get like go down a rabbit hole with it, and 3 hours later I'm like, oh, I just created like a 10-second video and that took 3 hours. So, there has to be an easier way to do it. So I would appreciate any kind of tips or tricks that you have, any apps that you feel have just made it easier, like you can get a really awesome video or image up like super easily that's slightly tweaked or whatever, but it looks, I don't know, like you feel like it's going to be more impactful because of something that you've done to it.
So in all honesty, I don't use any editing apps or anything.
That's why I was gonna let her take the lead on it because I don't use any.
I have tried some, it's just not for me, and it does take up a lot of time. You don't want it to feel like a chore. This is when I first started doing reels, for example. It used to take me ages to plan it, and then to film it, and then to edit it, and then to caption it, and then to post it. Like, it's too much work.
Yes.
With everything going on, you don't want that stress.
Yeah.
So what I started doing is, there is one that I still kind of do use. It's called InShot. It just helps you sort of cut down your footage, put some transitions on it, a couple of filters or whatever it is. It's not nothing too fancy. I use that only if I've got something like a long video. I tend to cut it down using that. Again, I don't do anything fancy on it. I just literally use it to cut it down. I don't put any music on it because obviously you want to use the trending sounds. You don't want to put your own music on. So yeah, in all honesty, I just use Reels, and that's it. If you want fancy filters on it, you can have that. I tend to use quite a lot because I like sort of old school stuff. So I use all the old school filters, which are really fun to use for me. But yeah, keep it simple. You don't have to do anything fancy. Honestly, I've tried it. I've tried to do like fancy transitions and stuff like that. It's cool. It catches the eye. People are like, "Oh my god, that's so amazing!" But are they watching it because your transition was really good, or are they watching it because you're trying to send this message out? I say keep it simple.
Yeah, listen, I don't have time to do that. I don't. I have 3 kids, and I'm a full-time caregiver to my middle child, and they are 5, 6, and 8.
Okay.
So I do not have time for the editing apps. All of my videos are just captured from my phone.
As is.
It might be a day that I even forget to wipe off the camera lens, so it might even be a little bit fuzzy. But the message that I try to get across in those videos, I make sure I get that message across. I think that's what's more important, because I will say, yes, Emily had my phone and I forgot to wipe the phone down. But this is what this video is about, and this is why it's important. So I don't get caught up in, what is, I guess, aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
It's just, my journey is like that. It's messy, and sometimes, I shot a video and Emily, I didn't even realize that she had puked all over me. And I'm just sitting there like creating videos with vomit on me, and I was like, you know what? I posted it anyway because this is my reality. Like, sometimes you're trying to educate somebody and a kid throws up on you. That's just the reality of being, a caregiver with a child that has severe GERD at the time. So, it's just, keep it real, like she said.
Keep it real, definitely. If you do kind of want to use sort of editing apps and things like that, there is one actually called Canva.
I'm trying to tell you that.
Yeah.
I work at a PR agency, and we do all the Instagram, we do everything.
Yeah.
But Canva has the templates, and it makes it so easy if you wanted presentation templates and reel and story templates where you can literally just put in your footage and have something that can make it pop with messaging. But again, use the trending sounds on Instagram, because that will get you more views rather than using your own music. So
yeah, but yeah.
They do Canva for presentations and for graphics, but I didn't.
Oh yeah, they have everything now.
Yeah, so you use it as well. I have sort of played around with it.
Okay.
But I just tend to keep it simple. But if I was to use one, I probably will.
I'm gonna check it out.
So,
check
it out.
And it's so user friendly. Even if you're not tech savvy, use the template that's already there, tweak it with colors and shape. You can do everything.
Have your video,
Literally
your
photos, you can do everything.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think what you said about the transition effects and stuff, And I don't think that's too important. I think when it comes to like people are going to content creators who are doing like adventures and stuff to see those like cool transitions. But when it comes to the raw content, the raw, you want the message to come across. It's not all about the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
It's about the message. So just to keep that in mind.
Thank you. Any other questions? Good advice. Yeah.
Okay, first of all, how do you guys find time to post all the time? Like, if you're caring for your daughter, if you're in the if you're not feeling well, you don't have energy, like, and how often do you post on your stories, on your feed, where you feel like you're getting the most engagement?
My posts with everything that goes on with Emily, they're not necessarily always in real time, because life is happening during that time. But like I also mentioned earlier, Emily don't always sleep. So when the rest of the world, well, in our time zone is sleeping, and I'm up with her, just because she's like awake during that time, it's not always because there's something wrong. She's like I said, she has no light perception, body, brain doesn't produce melatonin. She doesn't know that it's 3 o'clock in the morning, or, she doesn't know the difference between 3 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. So, that is when I would sometimes put some of the stuff together to, just post them at a different time. And like as far as how much to post, for me personally, I know that like I'm supposed to keep up with a certain time and algorithm and stuff, but I can't all the time. So, there's some weeks, that I can be really on it. And then there's sometimes I'm not. When I come back, I share that part, hey, you haven't seen our faces because life has been really tough because we've been dealing with X, Y, and Z. And then now those might be ones that are, might be more in real time if people are specifically reaching out saying, hey, we haven't seen posts for you in a while. But that's just me personally. I don't know if you're a bit more organized. No.
No. So I was going to say I batch create. I don't have time to, take content and then post it straight away. I don't have time for that. I also don't post in real time. So I usually have a day where I just do all my content stuff, whether it's reels. The only thing that is in real time is stories, because it's just easy. You just take stories and post it. It's not, captions and stuff. I really like to think about what I want to write and what hashtags I want to use, so I don't rush it. I usually spend 1 or 2 days in the week just creating content, whether it's pictures, reels, and just write all my captions and everything else because it just makes it easier. And then I just pick the days. There's actually an app that I use called Feed Preview, which is really, really helpful.
Feed preview?
Yeah, Feed Preview is really helpful. It shows your Instagram feed. You can schedule all your posts. You don't have to sit there and worry about posting it at whatever time. I used to do that. I used to be in the car and I was like, oh my god, it's 4 o'clock, I need to post. You don't need to do none of that. You just put it all on this feed preview, schedule them all, and they'll just get posted whenever you schedule it for. It's just less stress and worry. I do like to post regularly because I want to keep my sort of audience engaged all the time. I don't want to sort of disappear for a while because they'll be like, oh, what's going on? And like you said, algorithm, you need to keep up with the algorithm and stuff. And that's the best thing to do. Schedule your posts and just don't worry about them. And they just get posted.
Just look up in your area. You can just it's a quick Google search. You can look to see at what times of the day, what days of the week that for where you're posting from, that your Instagram is busier during that time, which means that you can likely to be seen more during that time, and then you could schedule them during that time. So
it shows you on your insights as well.
It does.
If you go onto your insights, you can actually see your sort of busiest, and that's what I usually do. But don't always rely on it either, because I've actually noticed that there's a couple of times where I've posted just before my busiest sort of period, and I've got more engagement. So kind of play around with it, see what works for you.
Yeah.
I used to post early in the morning because I know everybody's ready for work and they're either on public transport or they've just got to work early and they're just looking through their Instagram. and they will see my posts. I used to get a lot of engagement there, and then it kind of changed to like sort of 5, 6 o'clock in the evening when they're leaving work or they've just got home. So just see what works for you. I think everybody's different, depending on what sort of content you post as well. You know, if you want to post like stuff like this, I think early morning it's probably better because I think everyone's brains are switched on a little bit more as well, and they're not just scrolling for the sake of it. They're actually scrolling.
Yeah.
You know.
As a caregiver, actually, most of my engagement happens in the middle of the night.
Yeah, mine too. I'm up all night with my son, and that's when I'm getting everything done, and the rest of the world is sleeping.
So most of my engagement, so again, it just really depends on the content that you're posting, because I'm speaking with all the caregivers in the middle of the night because we're up with our kids. So it really depends on.
It depends on your content.
Your content.
So my husband's a music producer. Anything he posts, if he posts at the same time as me, he gets 0 So he usually posts like late
at night because that's when all the music. Yeah.
Are y'all's profiles set up as business accounts? Because I know you mentioned insights. So
Yeah, so they're all business profiles, and that's why
you get much more.
access the insights. Also, I've seen a couple of profiles where I've read the bio and it's very, very relevant to what I do, but the profile is private. If you're trying to shout to the world,
Yeah,
don't put it on
when
private.
you're doing reels and stuff, they just won't get.
Yeah.
So that's just a bit of a tip.
Yeah. Make sure you pay yourself.
Yes.
What about after you post? How important is it to kind of keep the conversation going about the post, or how do you engage post-posting?
So what I do,
Post-posting.
so a lot of people, they start getting comments and stuff and they just kind of leave it there, and they just like to watch how many comments and likes they're getting. Don't look at numbers, don't look at your likes or whatever, that's not important. If you get comments, message back straight away, reply to all your comments. I think that's the most important thing, because you don't want to feel like somebody's reaching out and you're just ignoring it, or somebody's asking you a question, you don't want to ignore it. They've got their phone in their hand, they've asked you something. If you answer back straight away, chances are they'll reply back straight away too, and then that way you get like a conversation going. I know a lot of people that kind of post and then that's it, they don't touch their phone until a few hours later and then they reply back to their comments, but chances are that person's not got their phone in their hand anymore. So definitely reply back as soon as you
can. I'm the other person that she's talking about. I'm the one that posts, and then I might be able to get back right away, but then something might happen and I might not,
I'm like, you just got hurt.
Yeah. So it's just so that they know how to see it. And then also for me, especially because sometimes somebody will say something I really want to reply to, but it takes more than what I have as far as time in that moment. So I will like their comments. So it's also as a reminder for me when I go back to look at my notifications, because sometimes Instagram can be wonky with the notifications. So if I like it, their notification will actually show up, and then later on, when my house is a bit more settled, I can go back and say, hey, sorry, things got crazy there for a bit, but I, thank you so much for asking whatever they asked or mentioning whatever it is, and here's why this is important, and then blah, 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 blah.
Are you also doing things on YouTube?
I'm not at the moment, but my husband's really pushing me to. It's probably my next thing.
Could you just repurpose your stuff from Instagram and put it on YouTube, basically?
Yeah. That's what I do with all my sort of socials. Anything that I post on Instagram, like Reels, for example, will be recycled and I'll put it onto my TikTok. Anything sort of short, like pictures with quick little captions, will go onto my Twitter. All my Instagram posts will go straight onto my Facebook because it's like synced. And also any sort of long captions that I've written, I'll make them even longer and then post it as a blog post on my website. So,
The good thing about YouTube now too, they don't always have like the little highlight reel things on YouTube, and now they do, so you can easily do that. They don't always.
I think YouTube has started doing like YouTube shorts and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
Like,
Like you go on and you can see it's like you just scroll through almost like you're on Instagram.
Okay. So you might be on YouTube soon because your husband is
Hopefully.
Yeah.
If I've got time. I keep telling him I have 0 time, but he was like, you just reuse everything. And that's another thing as well. So like, when you start growing your account, like I started posting a lot about my condition, 3 years ago, and the same stuff I post now, but slightly differently. I use different pictures or different sort of wordings, but it's the same post because people that follow me now necessarily didn't follow me back 3 years ago. And people who have already seen that won't remember because they're not going to remember like every single post you posted. So that's another thing as well. So every sort of 9 to 12 months, I literally recycle every single post. And my Instagram is basically on loop, but it's like different. I do add certain bits here and there.
No, I recycle all the awareness posts.
All the same thing.
Our story is still going to be the same.
Yeah.
My daughter's diagnoses are going to be the same.
Yeah.
I think, 1 year I may have had to tweak it a little bit because we ended up learning something else about that, particular diagnosis. But like all of the awareness things, all of the advocacy posts, I just, I do the same thing. I recycle all of those.
Yeah.
And if there's more information that I've even learned since the last time I posted, then I add it to it.
Yeah.
I just, because it's the same message. Our story is going to be the same, and the past stuff is still going to be the same. So I'm with her on that. You just use what you can, go back and then reshare.
Add like whatever this as well. And also Instagram lets you pin 3 posts at the top as well. So like your most sort of important ones. So I have one that kind of shares who I am, what I do, and like whoever's new to your Instagram, they're the first 3 posts that you can see. They don't have to scroll all the way down to find out what you're about. So one of my sort of they're like earliest posts are all at the top now, which is really helpful.
Yeah. It is. I've recently been trying to figure out like which ones which 3. You can change them out, but which 3 to pin, I
think that's really important because a lot of your sort of really, really informative posts are probably going to be when you first started.
Yeah.
But you can pin them to the top now so they don't have to scroll through like
to see what you're about.
Yeah.
Did you start first with just your personal and started like kind of doing stuff personally and then you dove into doing the business account?
Yeah, so mine
was a very personal account, and probably when my daughter was about maybe around 2.5, that's when I kind of made the switch. It kind of, the whole like tone of my whole Instagram page completely changed.
Just that.
And it starts from private, then it goes to public because you're not making as much of an impact if you're going private.
Of course.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
do this, are we doing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, my profile itself wasn't private, but it was my private account. So it was open to, it was a public account, but I used to just post like personal things like birthdays and whatever. Pictures of like just day-to-day stuff. And I wasn't really that active either. And then when I started sort of awareness raising, it was literally like just that. Because you don't want to confuse people that follow you as well. Somebody might be following you because they want info and you're posting pictures of your breakfast, which isn't really helpful for them. So.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Thank you guys.